was browsing a conspiracy theories thread on Reddit a couple of weeks ago, and I came across one about Kevin Spacey, which I don't remember hearing about at the time. It seems to be almost forgotten about now, but seeing as I'm pretty much always out of the loop, I've only just been looking into it, so I thought it'd be interesting to do a video on. If you enjoy mysteries, true crime, disappearances, and conspiracies, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content like this. I also have a Patreon and a PayPal, so if you're interested in supporting the channel, I'll leave a link to those in the description. I'm sure you're probably all aware of the reasons behind Kevin Spacey's cancellation a couple of years ago, but for anyone who isn't, here's a brief and vague summary. In October 2017, actor Anthony Rapp claimed that in 1986, when he was just 14 years old, 26-year-old Spacey had made advances towards him while intoxicated. Spacey posted an apology, if you can even call it that, on Twitter, and for some unknown reason, felt that this was a good time for him to come out as a gay man. That, paired with the message beginning with admiration for Anthony, just comes across as quite manipulative. More than 20 men, some of whom were underage at the time, have accused Spacey of misconduct, mostly groping and harassment, which is inexcusable, but some even alleged that they had woken up to Spacey performing acts on them without their consent. While this all blew up in 2017, it seems that many people knew what Spacey was like long before that, and Anthony had even told his story before in 2001 without mentioning names. Seeing as there is no way to prove or disprove many allegations of this nature, most cases aren't so clear-cut. But there are enough people with convincing enough stories who have spoken out against Spacey that I can pretty confidently say I think they're telling the truth and that he is a predator, but that is just my opinion. Anyway, it's time to put our tinfoil hats on and look at the conspiracies surrounding three of these accusers. As the title suggests, three people who accused Spacey of misconduct died in 2019. Let's begin with Linda Culkin, who may have been the first person to accuse Spacey of misconduct. She worked as a nursing assistant and began cyberstalking Spacey after one of her patients told her that they were allegedly attacked by him. She was actually sentenced to over 4 years in prison and 3 years probation and ordered to pay $125,000 in 2014 after pleading guilty to sending threats through the post and over the internet. This was between 2009 and 2011, and they were pretty serious. One was a hoax bomb threat, and another involved an envelope containing white powder intended to look like anthrax. When Linda was sentenced, she apologised for her behaviour and attributed it partly to her mental illness. She had depression and possibly other illnesses which appeared to stem from when she herself was assaulted years earlier. I either didn't know about this at the time or don't remember hearing about it now, but the impression I get reading articles from the time is that she was just totally dismissed because of a mental illness. One article I read just assumed that Linda had accused Spacey of an incident involving herself and made the point that there was no evidence that they'd ever met, which is totally irrelevant considering she never claimed to have met him and her motivation was an event recalled by a patient. That just goes to show that some people didn't even bother to learn the full story before dismissing her. I'm not for a second about to defend her actions, which affected more people than just Spacey, but it seems blatantly obvious to me that her patient telling her about the experience that they had with Spacey resonated with her and probably struck a nerve. I'm not sure what happened after her assault, whether her attacker was brought to justice or not, but it seems that her becoming obsessed with Spacey and trying to make him suffer was probably, in her mind, a way of trying to get justice for herself as well. Or at least the feeling of justice. Again, not defending what she did, but if her reasons behind it weren't just totally dismissed at the time, we'd all be aware of these allegations a long time ago. In February 2019, Linda was hit by a car as she was crossing the road, which seemingly killed her instantly. No charges were filed against the driver, who claimed that she crossed the road when the light was green, and the driver hit another car whilst attempting to avoid her. Whether or not this might have been suspicious depends on the exact circumstances. Was there CCTV footage of the incident? Were there any other witnesses? I assume the other car corroborated the driver's story, but could they have been in on it too, or could they have even been paid off? Probably not. That does sound a little bit of a stretch, and there's no evidence to suggest that Linda's death was anything but a tragic accident. But things got a little more suspicious when another person who accused Spacey died just a few months later. There isn't much information on his death. The man was an alleged victim of Spacey, but he chose to remain anonymous, so was only ever referred to as John Doe. John was a massage therapist and claimed he was hired to give Spacey a massage at his home in October 2016. When he was welcomed into the home, Spacey led him to an upstairs bedroom, then locked the door behind him. John claims that he was forced to touch Spacey and that he asked to leave multiple times before Spacey stopped blocking his way. John filed a lawsuit against him in September 2018, then in September 2019, 1 month before they were set to go to trial, his attorney declared that he had recently died, resulting in the lawsuit being dropped. The cause of death was never released, so I'm not sure if it could have been suspicious or not. Obviously, if his death was as a result of illness, then Spacey likely wasn't involved, and 1 or 2 sources state that he died of cancer, but I have no idea where they got that from. John's lawyer said that his death was a devastating shock to the family, so it sounds unlikely that he was ill for any length of time before. The timing is suspicious. Not only was his death a month before the trial was set to take place, but it was only 7 months after Linda's death. I wish we knew the circumstances, because that's the key to whether or not this death was suspicious or whether it was just a tragic coincidence. As we don't know much about his death, I'm not going to speculate too much further, but at this point we already have 2 accusers that have died within 7 months. The final and most questionable death was that of Ari Behn, an author who in December 2017 spoke about his encounter with Spacey years earlier. He alleged that after chatting for a while, Spacey asked him to join him for a cigarette, then groped him under the table. Almost exactly 2 years after he spoke out about this incident, in December 2019, Ari took his own life. At least that's the official story, but some believe he was murdered by Spacey or by someone hired by him. Yet again, there aren't many details on his death, which makes it hard to speculate on the circumstances. But that's now 3 accusers dead within less than a year. It's not looking great. What's very interesting though is that just days before, on Christmas Eve, Spacey uploaded a YouTube video titled KTWK, which stood for Kill Them With Kindness. In the video, he was acting as Frank, the character he played in the Netflix show House of Cards. He starts the video by saying, "You didn't really think I was going to miss the opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas, did you? I'd recommend watching the whole thing. It's only a minute long, but I'll show a couple of quick clips now."
Ah, yes, I know what you're thinking. Can he be serious? I'm dead serious.
Notice the emphasis on dead and also kill.
And do the unexpected. You can kill them with kindness.
And then he ends with a dramatic sound effect. That video literally made my skin crawl. Conspiracies aside, it just kind of comes across like he's trying to taunt his victims. I know he's playing a character, but it's just so eerie that this was posted only a day before Ari's death. This wasn't even the first video of this kind either. Exactly a year earlier, on Christmas Eve 2018, after not uploading to YouTube in over a year and a half, he uploaded a video titled "Let Me Be Frank." In this video, he was acting as Frank again, and for the record, I haven't seen House of Cards, so I don't really know the character. But Spacey references Frank's death, which appears to have occurred after Spacey was axed from the show because of the accusations. So on the surface, he's talking about the character, but if you read between the lines, it's pretty obvious what he's really talking about.
Of course, some believed everything and had just been waiting with bated breath to hear me confess it all. They're just dying to have me declare that everything said is true and that I got what I deserved.
Pretty much.
But you wouldn't believe the worst without evidence, would you? You wouldn't rush to judgments without facts, would you? No, not you. You're smarter than that.
Slightly manipulative.
If I didn't pay the price for the things we both know I did do, I'm certainly not going to pay the price for the things I didn't do.
I wonder if that's him acknowledging that some of the accusations were true, but claiming that others weren't. The video ends with the same dramatic sound effect as in the Kill Them With Kindness video. I encourage you to watch the video, as obviously I can't show the whole thing here, but if you take out specific words, the whole thing could be referencing the allegations. And it really comes across to me like he's taunting his victims and almost gloating about it that he got away with it for so long. At one point he mentions the truth coming out, but in his Twitter apology he didn't even deny the accusations. He said he couldn't remember, but he acknowledged that it might have happened. It's really unsettling and it just makes me really sad for the alleged victims. I can't claim to undoubtedly know his intentions, but he must realise how that comes across. At best, it's completely insensitive. But the timing and tone of both of these videos is very interesting. The first was uploaded only 2 months before Linda's death. Spacey doesn't seem too happy that his character was killed off, and by extension doesn't seem too happy, to say the least, about the accusations. The part where he says if he didn't pay the price for the things he did do, then he's not going to pay the price for the things he didn't do, could be him saying that he knows that he won't face any consequences for his actions. The tone of the second video, uploaded a day before Ari's death, is completely different. He seems almost relieved in this video. He literally says near the beginning, it's been a pretty good year. I mean, yeah, it had been for him. 2 people who had accused him had died at that point, but to actually say that just seems so tone deaf, for lack of a better phrase. If he wasn't the cause of the deaths, he certainly seemed happy about them. Spacey seems to be making a habit of uploading on Christmas Eve, as he posted another video in 2020, but this one was quite different to the others. It starts as if he's about to do another monologue in character, but then gets more real when he talks about people who have reached out to him with their own struggles, some so serious that they considered taking their own lives. He urges people to get help and shows the numbers for relevant hotlines at the end of the video. I really don't know the intentions behind this video. Spacey undoubtedly knew that Ari took his own life almost a year earlier. I wonder if this was at all a nod to that, or maybe after the conspiracy theories were going round and people pointed out the coincidence between his death and Spacey's video the day before, he released this video to make himself look better. I have no idea. There is a clear difference between this video and the other two though. It does seem like this one is more kind of damage control than anything else. So we basically have 3 possibilities here. Spacey killed all 3 of his accusers, Spacey killed none of his accusers, or Spacey killed 1 or 2 out of the 3. Obviously there's no solid evidence to prove he killed any of them, but let's recap each death with the added value of hindsight from the videos. The 2 videos that are particularly eerie were posted a year apart, and in that year 3 accusers died. The next year, a 3rd video is uploaded that could well be damage control. It references ending one's own life almost a year after an accuser ends their own life. As I said before, on the balance of probability, Linda's death was likely an accident. I wouldn't rule out an intentional hit, but it just seems a bit of a stretch, and if someone wanted to kill Linda, why do so in this way? Surely there'd be less risky and more certain ways, as she might not have died on impact. Spacey's motive wouldn't be totally clear either. If he was going to kill her to silence her, then he waited a bit long to do it. Luckily for him, it doesn't seem like she was taken seriously to begin with anyway, but surely the best time to take her out would have been as soon as the accusations started. Revenge could have been a possible motive. He knew that she wasn't taken seriously at the time, and maybe he just wanted to make her suffer for a little bit longer before taking her life. There is a clear motive for Spacey to want John Doe dead, and the timing was almost perfect. He died right before the lawsuit went to trial. His attorney informed Spacey's representatives, but planned to give John's family a bit of time to grieve before informing the court. One of his family members could have chosen to continue the case, but obviously would have wanted some time to grieve before doing so. Though Spacey's legal team completely ignored that and filed a notice to the court without their consent, which meant that they had 90 days to continue the trial, or it could be dismissed by the court. The case was dismissed, I'm assuming as a result of John's family being unable to continue the trial whilst grieving and also planning a funeral. Since we don't even know who John is, let alone the circumstances of his death, it's very hard to speculate on whether it could have been suspicious or not. Finally, the official story of Ari's death is that he took his own life. Having done a little research on him, that doesn't sound unbelievable. He was reportedly depressed, especially since he divorced his wife, Princess Martha Louise. He also had an alcohol problem, which he detailed in a book he published a couple of years before his death. I couldn't find much information on him shortly before he died though. Many articles reference his mental health struggles, but these seem to be around the time his book was published, which was also around the time he got divorced, and somewhere close to when he spoke out about his encounter with Spacey. He separated from his wife the previous year, in 2016, so as far as I could tell it's not impossible that he might have been in a very bad place in 2017, but maybe recovered or maybe got worse, leading to his death. In terms of a possible link with Spacey, the video being uploaded the day before could have been relevant. It could suggest that Spacey was hinting at getting rid of Ari, or maybe Ari saw that video and that was just the final straw for him and that kind of pushed him to end his own life, or it could have been totally irrelevant. I couldn't find the actual footage of Ari recalling his encounter with Spacey, but according to CNN, Ari told the story more as a strange, funny incident than as an accusation of abuse. Assuming that's right, it does provide some insight. Ari probably didn't take his own life because Spacey's video sent him over the edge. That said, it's possible that the incident affected Ari more than he publicly admitted. The fact that he never actually attempted to file a lawsuit against Spacey, though, does remove some of the motive that might suggest that Spacey would want him dead. It sounds like Ari just recalled what he perceived to be a funny story without actually taking any further action, so it wouldn't really make sense for Spacey to go to the lengths of killing him to silence him or get revenge. In addition to the 3 people already discussed in this video, it's also worth mentioning that another alleged victim pretty abruptly dropped his lawsuit against Spacey in July 2019. The man claimed that Spacey groped him in a bar in 2016. It seems that he dropped the lawsuit after misplacing the phone that contained evidence of interactions between him and Spacey. It was implied that he deliberately withheld messages that might suggest the contact was consensual, as the text that remained didn't quite make sense at points, hinting that some replies may have been deleted. Criminal charges were dropped shortly after too, seemingly because the alleged victim refused to testify in court. The alleged victim was 18 at the time and admitted to telling Spacey he was 23, but of course that wouldn't justify Spacey groping him without consent if that is what happened. I'm not sure what to think about that one. Some believe that he misportrayed the events of that night with hopes of benefiting financially from a lawsuit and just gave it up when he realised that he couldn't keep the lie up. Others believe his claims and think that Spacey might have threatened him to drop the lawsuit. I've even seen it suggested that Spacey might have stolen the phone to destroy evidence, but that does seem a bit of a stretch. Overall, there's no solid evidence to prove that Spacey was in any way involved in any of the deaths, or that he threatened any accuser to drop the lawsuit, but it is all very suspicious and full of coincidences. Really, what are the chances that 3 people who accused Spacey died within less than a year, and then a 4th alleged victim abruptly drops the lawsuit against him? Add in Spacey's weird YouTube videos and it's even stranger. If it turned out that he had murdered these people, his first video would totally be seen as foreshadowing, and the second comes across like he's gloating. This conspiracy theory seems quite polarising. There are some people that wholeheartedly believe that Spacey bumped off his victims, but other people just think that the deaths were unrelated and a series of coincidences. Personally, I haven't seen enough evidence on any of the deaths to suggest that they were suspicious, but with such a lack of information online, it's really hard to say. As I said before, I personally believe the allegations against Spacey. That's just my personal opinion, it's not fact, but I also think that the YouTube videos were referencing the allegations and possibly even a way of mocking the alleged victims. I also think incidents of this nature are extremely common, not only amongst celebrities, but the general population too, and I think that some people would go to extreme lengths to keep their secrets hidden. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think that Spacey ordered a hit on any of these people, or do you think the deaths were unrelated and the videos were purely coincidental? If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Huge thank you to my patrons whose names are on screen now. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Thursday in a new video.